Governments are no longer denying it. The military are no longer denying it. And even mainstream media no longer denies it. They're here and have been here for a very long time. The Mutual UFO Network has been on the front lines uncovering the truth since 1969. And now we're sharing the truth with you. Welcome to MUFON's What's Up with hosts Katie Griboski, Christopher DePerno, and Katie Cook, exclusively on the KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network. Wondering what's up? So are we.
What's up? It is Thursday night, and you are listening to MUFON What's Up Radio, the show that says discovery starts with curiosity and curiosity starts with MUFON. I'm your host, Katie Griboski. Welcome to the show, everybody. Glad you could be with us tonight. We have got an excellent show for you lined up. Marc D'Antonio, and we are going to corner him on the UFO topic. I know he's a great astronomer, but I really want to get into UFOs. Again, welcome to the best 2 hours of fresh, new UFO information, news, and discussion brought to you by KGRADB.com. As always, we endorse MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network, who's been on the front lines asking that all-important question, are we alone in the universe? I'm so excited for tonight. I can't wait. Before we get started, I would like to introduce my co-host, Katie Cook. Welcome, Katie.
Hi, Katie. I'm so excited to interview Marc. This is going to be a really, really good show.
It is. I'm excited for this one as well. And also, Chris DePerno. Welcome, Chris.
Hello, everybody. Boy, it's great to be here. Also, Marc has done amazing jobs with photo analysis stuff. And I'm going to hit him up on that stuff because he is one of the best in the United States.
That is so true. He is MUFON's photo and video expert. So we definitely need to get tips from him for sure. Congratulations, Chris, by the way.
Oh, yeah. I'm a grandfather for the first time. Hooray. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Came out crying. Awesome. She came out crying with full red hair. And I'm trying to figure out how she got the red hair in an Italian family.
I love that.
Well, Katie, I know you always kick us off with something cool, so go ahead and start us off.
Okay, well, let's start with our UFO meme of the week. I found a really cute one. Isn't that cute? The cat is being beamed up into the spaceship, and the aliens are saying, make up your mind. We can't keep beaming you up and down. Am I the only one whose cat does this too? Seriously, like, I mean, she sits there at the window like, meow, let me in. And I open it, and she just like rolls on the floor like, want to play? And I'm just like, yeah, it's freezing outside. I don't know why cats do that. All right, let's talk about the paranormal pop of the week. I love this one. All right, it's not a UFO or an alien, but I know that plenty of our listeners and viewers are also way into ghost hunting. So I had to share this cute little ghost this week. It's white chocolate, and it smells divine. They always do. There might still be time to get these in time for Christmas if you get your orders in really quickly. And of course, you can do that at paranormalpops.com. We're big fans of the pops. All right. Now, speaking of the holidays coming up, so I've had gift giving in mind, and I don't know about you, but I'm on a little bit of a budget this year. So I thought I would share a really cool craft in case you want to actually just make a gift for someone. I love it when people make gifts for me. So let's check out this crafty cookie video. You can find these foam mannequin heads at most beauty supply stores, or you can order them online. They're usually under $10. Now, of course, most people buy them to display and store their wigs. But if you're into all things ufology, it's hard not to see this as your new alien decoration. A little acrylic paint transforms this hunk of foam into an otherworldly friend. I went with a grayish green hue as a base, and of course, 2 big black eyes. A little shadowing and highlighting. And don't forget to add some reflection on the eyes to really make them pop. Voila! For a little more than a Starbucks coffee and just a few minutes of your time, you now have an alien head to keep you company, or as the perfect gift to your ufology-loving friend. Isn't that fun?
Oh
I
my
love
God.
that.
You know what? I just thought of something evil. I think I'm going to get one of those, hang it up from the ceiling right above my wife at about 2:00 in the morning, and then nudge her. And then we'll watch her go, ah!
How did Chris get divorced?
And stuff. Now you know why if I ever do get divorced. I think that'd be a pretty cool Halloween joke, don't you think?
I think you're really evil. That's what I think.
Well, yeah, that's part of my genetics.
You are so crazy. All right. Well,
Evil little
what's going
bastard.
on with UFO news this week, Chris?
Well, UFO news. We got some great stories here. The first story is huge flying object caught by police cruiser, the in-car camera in Florida. This has not gotten much press for the past year. I don't know why, but it's an amazing story. It's been out there and people are talking about it again. So here it is. A law enforcement officer from a police agency in Florida was dispatched to a suspicious person call in the early morning hours. Upon his arrival, he noticed a completely black triangular shape craft with no lights about 40 feet above the ground, traveling about 35 miles an hour in a southerly direction. You know, these cops, they're trained observers, so they put all that in, about 35 miles an hour going south and stuff like that. And I'm sure he damn near almost wrecked his patrol car looking at this thing. Anyways, as the craft came into line of sight of his cruiser, it passed behind some trees. He was able to shine his spotlight and illuminate part of the craft as it passed between the trees. The craft continued, and the officer was not able to follow. But later, after finishing the call, the officer reviewed the dash cam and saw the object on video. Amanda, would you roll that tape, please?
Ambulance, 75-year-old male, back pain. It's 211 Silver Hollow Road between Lane Road and Cross Patch Road. Repeating, 75-year-old male, back pain. It's 211 Silver Hollow Road between Lane Road and Cross Patch Road. 0933, 5632.
Once again, L1 to Woodstock Ambulance Duty Crew, respond for an adult female fallen, unable to ambulate. The Robbins residence, 11 Chester's Place. Repeating to Woodstock Ambulance Duty Crew, respond for an adult female fallen. Robbins residence, 11 Chester's Place, between Jones Quarry Road and the dead end. 1539, 5636.
Pulse 9-1 to Woodstock Company number 5, duty crew. Respond for an adult female knee injury secondary to a fall at Tinker Toys, number 5, Mill Hill Road. We're repeating to Woodstock Company number 5, duty crew. Respond for a adult female knee injury secondary to a fall at Tinker Toys, number 5, Mill Hill Road, between Rock City Road and Maple Lane. 1307, 5612. Woodstock, Company number 5, Sequoia District. Request respond evaluated subject at the Bank of America, number 81 Mill Hill Road.
I don't know. The officer could see the incident and part of the craft as it passed between the trees. Of course, after looking at the video, I'm not too sure. I don't see the officer getting really excited about this. I'd be going crazy. You decide. Real, unreal? Katie, what do you think?
My first thought was when I first saw it, I thought it was a building back there, but I guess the officer would know if there was a building back there. So, you know, the way it appeared at the beginning of the video.
Well, if he couldn't know what a building was, he shouldn't be in a police car. I can tell you that.
Exactly.
Right now. Holy
exactly.
cow.
That was just my first thought, but I'm like, yeah, he would know that. So
Cookie?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the shape of it doesn't look like something that would be like reflecting from inside the car. I can't really figure out what would cause that kind of reflection. This one kind of freaks me out, to be honest with you. You know, at first I'm looking at it, I'm like, I don't really see anything. And then I'm like, oh, whoa, this is like Steven Spielberg. I mean, it's I guess a really credible witness. So that adds a lot of credibility to it. But
well,
I'd want to spend more time with this one, really look at still shots to figure this one out.
Obviously, he spotted something because he actually put the spotlight on it. So it wasn't just the
Yeah.
camera that picked it up. he actually spotted something because he pointed the spotlight to it.
So were
he
there no
must have seen-
clouds above it? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
No, yeah, from what the video shows, it's pretty clear right there going between the two trees. But however, you know, in the middle of the night, a lot of things pop up that you think are real and stuff, and they're just not. It could be something that he thought he saw or he misinterpreted. I'm sure it's not a building though.
will you just remind me though, was he thinking he saw something and that's what made him put his light on it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
He thought he saw something moving, treetop level, put a spotlight on it, and the dash cam actually picked it up where he went back and reviewed the dash cam and he said, "Holy cow, look what I spotted." That's what makes this such a Scooby-Doo mystery.
It looks huge. That's what I was going to say. If it is something that's huge, because you're right, it does look like Steven Spielberg. Like, is that like the pattern? Like almost like, like when it comes over in Close Encounters. Ooh.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Well, it sounds like it's a legitimate radio call because you could hear the dispatcher calling all this other stuff to it. So, you know what? It needs a little more exploring.
Right.
Yeah.
Then again, if it's that huge,
one.
you would think other people would witness it if it's something that low and that huge. So, that needs closer attention.
I don't know how many people are out on a residential neighborhood at like 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning. I know I'm in bed, but
True.
And if this stuff is flying over my house at that time, that's not good. Anyways, let's get on with the next story.
All right.
Okay. Has a crash flying saucer been spotted on Mars? A possible crash flying UFO may have been spotted on Mars. A researcher checking NASA, that's for Mark, images for oddities on Mars may have spotted what appears to be a crash flying saucer on the surface of the red planet. Researcher Gene Ward made the discovery when he was looking at a photo taken by the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter. While the image may be a whopping 15 years old, the researcher's examination of the picture uncovered the scene and has been hiding in plain sight for all these years. In the photo, an object with a rounded edge can be seen half buried in the Martian dirt with a long streak behind it. The object looks to be about 40 to 50 feet in diameter. Ward believes that this could be a disc-shaped craft that hit the surface of Mars at a very low angle. Ward also posted that the strange streak behind the possible craft may be indicative of a ramp leading to an underground entrance. I'm not so sure about that one. This scenario suggested by Ward may be that Mars was once inhabited by a race of intelligent extraterrestrials. Maybe. Let's check this short video. Amanda?
There's a look at the low-res black and white. And the anomaly we'll be checking out is right there, folks. The site we're looking at is located right there, folks, near Seti Mensa at 6 degrees 27 minutes south, 76 degrees 57 minutes west. So there it is at 1:1 scale, and we see a strange trench. And at the end of it, a perfect disc, partially covered in sand and debris. And behind it, we have random dunes. Here I've removed some of the dunes to give you an idea of what we're looking at here, or potentially what we're looking at here. It looks like a disc-shaped craft or object came in at a very low angle and crashed into the surface of Mars, leaving this trench behind it. And then later over time, sand dunes formed in this trench. We can see some sand has fallen down the side of this trench, and it's partially covered this track. So let's have a look at this zoomed in. Right there, it looks like a disc that's partially elevated on the one side as it plowed into the surface, and there's an outline of that disc. And if you look at the outline, it's almost the same width as this trench. It's difficult to tell because we have the sand filling in the sides of that trench.
Wow. I got to tell you, I'm not too sure because this is such an old picture. Nobody's jumped on it before. And then 15 years later, this now is making the news. But it is news. People, you take a look at it. You decide. Is it a crash flying saucer? Is it a dune? You check it out. What do you think, Cookie?
I'm going to go with something more natural. I mean, yes, that is a circular shape. I can see why it's catching everyone's attention. And I like the idea of it being a saucer. I think that's really cool. But honestly, I just think there's so many things like that on Mars. I'm not buying that it was a piloted craft. It is really cool looking. And I do like that final real close up where you see how deep it is. It's really impressive. I don't know. I just feel like if it was a craft, maybe it would have already been covered up by now. But, what do I know?
A lot of people are getting excited about it. Katie?
Yeah.
I agree with Cookie on that. I mean, my question is, how long does it take for those dunes to form? They have those ridges. Can they measure how high they are? And when it zooms in on that ridge, it does just look like a high sand dune there. But it's hard to tell. I mean, I think what kind of throws it over the top, it does look like skid marks leading into that. So it's really interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely something. Well, that's our news for the week. So let's go into the person of interest. Amanda? All right. Our person of interest this week is Professor Haim Eshed, Israel's former head of their space program. Professor Eshed made an incredible statement stating that aliens exist and they're among us. That's a huge statement, folks. Now, Professor Eshed is one of Israel's most respected scientists. He's a professor of aeronautics, a veteran pilot, and a flight instructor. Co-founder of the Israeli Space Agency and the Space Research Institute, he also holds the rank of a brigadier general in the Israeli army. He's got a lot of credibility here. So, I mean, you don't become a brigadier general in the Israeli army if you're a nutcase. Professor Eshed served from 1981 to 2010 as the head of Israel's security space program, and over the years, he has been awarded the Israeli Security Award 3 times, which is one of their highest awards. Despite his impressive and impeccable professional resume and credentials, it was only after he left his official duties that he felt free enough to tell the truth about what is perhaps the biggest secret in human history, the truth about aliens. The good professor gave an interview with Israel's largest newspaper and stated that aliens from all over the universe, which all belong to a galactic federation, are not just visiting Earth, but they are already walking among us. The aliens have asked us not to announce that they are here. Humanity is not ready yet. President Trump was on the verge of revealing this, but the aliens in the Galactic Federation are saying, wait, let people calm down first. They don't want to start mass hysteria. You know what, folks? I got to agree with that, because if somebody came out, there would be a lot of people going crazy over this right now. They have been waiting for humanity to evolve and reach a stage that we will generally understand what space and spaceships are. There's an agreement between the U.S. government and the aliens. They signed a contract with us to do experiments here. They, too, are researching and trying to understand the whole fabric of the universe, and they want us as helpers. There's an underground base in the depths of Mars where their representatives are. Now, this is coming from Professor Eshed. He's also stated that if he had come up with this 5 years ago, he would have been hospitalized. I hate to tell you, I think he's right about that. Here's a small video of what Professor Eshed has been saying. Amanda?
Mars, a cold, lifeless place, yet just a few meters beneath the surface, a secret underground base hums with activity. American astronauts walk the hallways of this secret base, talking and exchanging research notes with aliens from another planet. This might sound like the opening to a fantasy novel, but according to one of the most credible individuals in the world, it's our present-day reality. Dr. Haim Eshed is not a backwoods country bumpkin talking about strange lights in the sky and little green men putting probes where the sun doesn't shine. He's one of the most respected men in Israel and America both. A former general in the Israeli military, he's also the co-founder of Israel's space agency and considered a national hero for his efforts to launch Israel into the space age. More on that, he's a professor of aeronautics and astronautics and a member of the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics. As far as credentials go, short of being president, he can't get any better. And he has one message for the world, revealed in a shocking interview in early December 2020. Aliens are real and the American and Israeli governments are cooperating with them. According to Dr. Ashed, aliens representing a galactic federation of like-minded species have made contact with at least 2 governments on Earth, the Israeli and American governments. At this time, it's unknown if other governments are involved and that it's likely Israel's involvement is due to American cooperation, which would mean the other close U.S. allies such as Britain and France are also likely aware of the existence of these extraterrestrials. Don't worry, these aliens aren't here to eat your brains. Instead, they're curious about humanity and awaiting a time when humanity is mature enough to join their galactic federation of allied species who share the ultimate goal of understanding the universe. Well, admittedly, that's exactly what brain-eating space aliens would want you to believe. But according to Dr. Ashed, their intentions are so far peaceful. In fact, cooperation agreements have already been signed between the U.S. and these aliens, resulting in a research laboratory on Mars itself where American astronauts work side by side with extraterrestrials. Current President Donald Trump, as of this writing, not only knows about the existence of these aliens, he nearly revealed their existence publicly, but was warned not to due to concerns over mass hysteria. Though perhaps Dr. Haim Ashed has had the answer all along. The true mystery, however, might be why a man with such impeccable credentials as Dr. Ashed is willing to risk his reputation on such outlandish claims.
Wow. I don't know. Professor Ashed, a hero? Brigadier General? Or is he a crackpot? Some of the stuff I can believe. Some of the stuff I just don't believe. What do you think, Cookie?
Oh, I have so many questions. We don't even have enough time for all the things I want to talk about with this one. Yeah, I don't know. I kind of have a hard time picturing this whole agreement being signed between aliens and humans. I kind of actually would love to believe it. I'd love to know how these astronauts got this job where they get to hang out with aliens and trade tech and what kind of NDA they would have to sign to even have such a job. How do they get recruited? Do they have families? Because you couldn't really go home and be like, oh, it was another boring day at the office, honey. I don't know. I actually really want to believe this because I think it's kind of cool. Here's my first question is why American and Israeli governments? I mean, why exactly do you think they'd be working with us?
I have no clue. I can tell you that there's always been rumors that they met with Eisenhower and they signed agreements there. So, I mean, that's not an old rumor.
No,
but
not at all.
This guy has gone through a battery of different psychological exams. You don't get these titles or these positions where he's holding, Israeli top secret clearances. I mean, the head of the space agency, working with intelligence groups, and a brigadier general by being a nutcase. He has a lot of credibility behind him that way, but he comes out now and says these things, and people are like going, I don't know. Did he have a nervous breakdown? What, Cookie?
Yeah,
I think, Katie, what do you think?
I was going to say, what do you think would motivate him, Chris, to come out with all that now? I mean, what motivates
Probably
him to
a
do
book
this?
deal. Wouldn't be surprised if. Come on, I mean, what are you going to say? If you write a book about it and you're going to say, yeah, they might be flying by and lock the doors as they go by. Nobody's going to buy that book. But if you come out with the stuff that he's saying now, you're gonna, order it on Amazon or I mean, it's a presentation for, what he wants. But, for a guy of this stature to come out and say these things, you got to hold some of it. I mean, other people have said that they're walking among us, that they look like us. They've been here for thousands of years. All the other stuff, I'm having a hard time with that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think he's just crazy. Like you said, he's got amazing credentials. I think, and I hate to admit this, maybe there's a part of me that always has a little bit of a hard time trusting that when someone, from the government, someone really high up leaks a little bit, there's always a part of me that immediately goes into what's the agenda. And I hate that I respond that way. I'm not proud of that, but that just kind of comes up in me. I have no doubt that, aliens have been among us for probably longer than, humans as we know it have even been here. So, I mean, I guess I can believe that maybe there is some base where they're collaborating. I think my mind also just goes into, like I said, technically, like, who gets that job? Are you born into it? Are you told from the time you're a child, like, you're going to be whisked away and forever held underground working with aliens? Or do you just pop up and go to McDonald's with your family at night and you just don't tell them what you do for a living? Like, I get into all of that, and I just think, who's doing this job? How many humans are supposedly working with aliens every day and just going about their business like no big deal?
Right. And to say it's all a good thing, that they're, so far it's all been good and rosy and nothing bad comes of this, I don't think that. I mean, if they're whisking people away, is that a good thing? I mean, you can't go into motives.
I can tell you, if you take me at 2:00 in the morning against my will and you start probing me with things that I don't want to be probed with, I don't consider that an abduction. I consider that kidnapping and assault. There's nothing good about that. I'm sorry.
I agree.
I'm not somebody's lab rat.
No, and I want to expand upon that for a minute, because there are some people in ufology that will say, well, you just had a bad experience because you're not enlightened enough, or you didn't understand what was going on. Actually, there are a lot of people that have had good and bad experiences. It depends on what they're dealing with and what's going down. And you should be able to trust your gut. If you wake up and see something in the middle of the night and it terrifies you, makes your blood run cold, and you want to scream and you can't, maybe your gut's telling you that you're about to have something pretty unpleasant happen. And I don't think you should ever be told by somebody, well, you just, you'll get used to it. You'll understand that they mean you well. We don't know what the hell they want. Some show up and they do seem to really love humans and want to do great things, for the planet and whatever. And some are just here to apparently take samples or fetuses or whatever. And that is terrifying. And again, when I go back to the idea of like a contract between us and the aliens, yes, that's been rumored for years. I understand that. But part of me thinks, did we really have any say in the matter? Like, did we really come back and bargain? Okay, but you can only do it on Saturday and Sundays. And I just sort of feel like they're going to do what they want to do.
And you brought up a good point, Cookie, because you think about this. We don't ask dolphins or whales when we tag them and bag them and everything else. I mean, we don't have it. Hey, you guys mind if we throw this implant into you? I mean, we do the same thing with species here. So they think of us, sort of like lab rats, where they can go, look at these, Neanderthal humans running around here. Let's put a couple implants in them and see what they do and see how, evolved they become. Yeah. So we're no different than that. We're an experiment to them. How far they want to take it, that's the part that I don't like. And I'm sure that if they came down here, made themselves known and said, listen, we want to kind of experiment on a few of you, there'd be a line out the door. People will go and say, yeah, do what you want with me.
Yeah,
I won't be one of them, but I'm sure there will be.
Yeah, you got to at least take me to Olive Garden or something.
Yeah, right. Need something out of the deal.
Why don't you get like a free coupon or something, like at Home Depot or something, if you sign up for that.
Oh, no. Well, let's switch gears entirely. I've still got the holidays on my mind. And Katie, I know you were feeling the Christmas spirit recently. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I'm going to totally switch gears here from that to just a little video I created just to get in the holiday spirit, kind of share with all of you guys where I am. So Amanda, if you want to roll the Christmas video. Say, who's that? How I decorate my UFO office and library for the holidays. We have the tree here filled with all things UFO and space, with the cool Christmas tree topper. If it has to do with anything Bigfoot, aliens, UFO, it is on this tree. We even have a pyramid. All right. Now we move over here. What do you think, Sam? We even have the elf and the aliens hanging out up on the elf on a shelf. And Captain is all excited. And let's not forget this little gal right here. She is all decked out and ready to go. Here is the little UFO office. And this is where I broadcast live to all of you guys every Thursday night. Even Mr. Alien Head Santa got in on the act this year. All right. And so that, everybody, sums up the little tour of the office. Let's not forget the cabinet filled with all the UFO top secret documents. Okay, Sammy, say Merry Christmas to everybody. Have a very Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. I think Sammy was stretching there. He wasn't, you know how dogs like wipe on. I'm like, he was just doing his little stretch.
I want Sam for Christmas. Can Sam be in my stocking?
His name is Samurai Balchinian. That's his middle name.
That just rolls off the tongue.
I know.
Hey, I'll give you a puggle for free if you want a puggle.
What?
A puggle? Are they the ones that are like,
Yeah.
they can't breathe?
Cute.
Yeah. They snore all the time and everything.
Your office is awesome. That helped really put me in the spirit. Was Captain jealous?
I think he's very talkative, and you know Huskies, he can say I love you. So you walk in the door and Captain will give you a I love you. It's so sweet.
Will you put that on
Of the
video at
dogs.
some point? We want to show
I will.
everybody.
Yeah, I will. I'll get that on film.
I
For
love
sure.
that.
And
That's
I
so
do have a
good.
snoring dog, Chris, that I kick out of my room every night. The middle dog. I have 3 dogs, and the middle dog is like, I'm sorry, Strider. I have a dog named Strider. That's a whole other story. He was supposed to be a Rottweiler. He's my mini Rott, but he snores so loud. I always feel so bad booting him out of the door.
You're
Yeah,
running
my
a zoo
dog-
over there.
Yeah. So, Chris, did you catch up with Bob for international news?
I did. He's just an amazing guy. We got to get him on the show one of these days. He showed me a video, and we'll play it here shortly, but he showed me a video of a sighting that people were going excited about. They're going crazy. And he analyzed it, and he says, Chris, this is what it really is. Amanda, would you roll that tape?
Hi, everybody. This is Bob Spearing. I'm MUFON's Director of Investigations International, and I'd like to thank Chris for having me on again this week so that I can show you a case of interest, including a video that goes along with it. This first case was from an airplane pilot, allegedly, taken somewhere near Hong Kong on November 24th. And I'm going to let Chris roll it. When it's done, we'll go through it and discuss it. Chris, let it roll.
I don't know what that is. That is some weird shit.
Ryanair 2735, contact Ho Chi Minh 120.7, good day. Ho Chi Minh 120.7, good day, Ryanair 2735.
That's something fun. Gone.
Okay, so that's a very interesting video. Okay, they're obviously real objects because they go under the cloud cover at the end. But what are they? This video has gone viral all over YouTube, all over the internet. Everyone's claiming this is exclusive proof that these are UFOs. What the pilot saw, if indeed it was a pilot who saw it, because the report sent into MUFON is so void of details, it suggests a hoax. These lights are actually shooting off the back of fighter jets. In World War II, the United States and Nazi planes, and Japanese for that matter, would use flak, pieces of metal that they would shoot out the back of the airplane to disrupt enemy fighters attacking them, to disrupt enemy radar. This is what we have here. These flares coming off the back come out in sequence, and it's designed to make an enemy aircraft trying to shoot at them confused. The contrast in this video is very dark, so the flares show up very bright. Because of the contrast, you can't see the actual fighter jets, which are too dark and blend into the clouds. You can't see them releasing these bursts of flares. But it is an IFO. It's a known military tactic, and we can close this one out as an IFO. Chris?
Tell you, guy knows his stuff.
Hmm.
You know?
I have a few questions on this one. So if I'm understanding correctly, then the flares are to basically confuse like tracking equipment on a possible enemy plane. That's why they're...
What happens is that missiles can go on heat signature, some of the missiles.
Okay.
And what happens is when a fighter jet comes in for a strife or they get picked up by enemy radar, they'll change course, hit what they call chaff. Flares come out to kind of fool the missile into thinking that's the plane. So they're very bright, they're very hot, and they get very hot to the point where the missile actually attracts to them than the actual jet. It's very common. We have it with our jets. The Chinese have it. The Russians have it. You know, unless you're doing a prop plane, these jets all have it that are military.
So the jets are long gone.
Jets are long gone. They hit the afterburners, bingo, gone. They what they call they pop the chaff, and these flares come out. You know, missile takes off, and it's a practice run. We do it all the time down in Las Vegas area, New Mexico area. You could see these high bright flares. They get fooled. People get fooled, and then they just disappear like that because they fade out.
So they were flying like low over the ocean. They come out, or were the jets flying higher and then they sank down? I mean, how?
The jets will bank. I mean, they'll pop the chaff. They'll bank right, bank left, bank up, bank down, whichever way that they're trained to avoid a missile attack, or basically a missile attack. And there are probably some Chinese jets on a missile training thing, and where they pop the chaff. And those, believe me, jets, they can get into cloud cover so fast that you wouldn't be able to see them. They'll hit that chaff, and you got to remember the planes, the new technology with the jets, they almost are like camouflaged into the sky. You can barely see them unless you see the afterburners kick in and stuff of that nature.
Do we have any idea if this was a passenger plane?
The passenger plane was the plane that actually filmed the thing, because it
just seems like it's kind of close to a passenger plane. That's what shocked me about the video. I believe that it is an IFO 100%. I was just kind of like, are they up there doing that all the time? And you're in your American Airlines flight flying by, like, check that out. It just seemed. I
don't want to get political. I don't want to get political here, but I'll just say this: the Chinese, they don't give a damn if they get close or don't close or anything like that. I mean, the way things are right now, political wise, that they could care less. But it's definitely chaff from a plane. I have to agree with Bob.
All right.
Cool. Thank you, Bob.
Now we know. Is it case of the week time, Katie? Are we there?
It is. I decided to do something kind of different this week. It's a very interesting case. So let's just get into it here. Oh, Amanda, do you want to run the little? I love that. Okay. So case of the week, we have case 119155. This is a category 3 case. It's out of Baltimore, Maryland. It's dated November 4th, 2021. Happened at 3:00 in the afternoon. Now this is different, and I decided to go this route because it's kind of different from MUFON, really. It's audio only. It's entity voices, which is unusual. So the witness heard entity voices while listening to a video that she recorded. It's audio only. And here's what she wrote. She said, "I'm babysitting a corn snake for a young man who is in college. I make YouTube videos of Scruffy Merlin so he can see that his pet is okay. I had just recorded a silly video of Scruffy and when I put the snake back into his aquarium, he posed on this tree branch. So I put my phone up to the aquarium window to get some pretty photos of the snake. I was in my art room. I had the radio on 98 Rock. I like that. She's listening to rocking out in her art room. And I took a short video of the snake at the time, about 3:00 p.m. November 4th. It wasn't until I uploaded this particular short video of the snake on his tree branch to Facebook that I reviewed and heard the interdimensional voices. The video shows the snake freezing when the entity speaks and relaxing once it's gone. I'm not in the video, only my reflection on the aquarium. I do not speak on it either. The entity overspeaks the radio song, and when it's finished, you can hear the end of the song. I felt and saw nothing as it happened, which is unusual. Only the snake experienced it. I have the original recording on my phone. So I also recorded, after Amanda plays a video here in a minute, you're going to hear this weird sounding voice. And I also did a couple screenshots of this reflection that I saw in the aquarium, and we'll talk about that after the video. So this is an audio only. She didn't see any entities or anything. I just thought it was interesting. So go ahead and roll. So this was closed as information only, but what's interesting is you can obviously tell, I think this was a bit of a hoax. You can tell that she slowed the video way down. The snake's tongue slows way down. And this witness has quite the history of ET encounters in that. So that's why it went in as information only. But as I was looking at the photos, I did see a strange reflection in the photos. So I don't know if you can make out to the right of the snake there. Can you guys make that out there? I don't know.
Yeah, looks like a rat who thinks he's going to be lunch very soon.
Yeah, and go ahead and show the second image. There we go. This image on the background. Now people can look at that. Yeah, it looks like an ET face to me. And I wanted to talk a little bit. Yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about the phenomenon that our brains do to make faces and shadows and whatnot, called pareidolia. So if you want to, but yeah, if you can see, it says if you can see faces in this picture, you're suffering from pareidolia and have a well-wired brain. So I think that's just a case of that. So that is my case of the week, audio only, slow down video, just something different.
Yeah, I like that. That was interesting, but yeah, definitely, not easy to figure out what's going on there. I've been sent cases like that, and they're like, it's a demon. I'm like, no, it's not.
No.
We're going to speed it up, and you're going to hear yourself talking. So no.
Right. We get all kinds here at MUFON. It keeps us on our toes, right? It keeps us on our toes.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
all right, Chris, I think you're up with some ERT news for us, right?
I got some great news. I got to interview Denise Stoner, who is a member of the ERT team, but she's also an experiencer. And she was able to tell me a little bit about what she does with the ERT team, but then also talked about her experience, her abduction. Amazing. And she has worked with hundreds of abductees and is still working to this day with abductees. Amanda, would you show that tape, please?
Hello, I'm Denise Stoner. I'm a member of MUFON. I am also a big part of the Experiencers Resource Team. That began years ago under another name. It was the Abduction Research Team by Bud Hopkins, and all of you will probably recognize that name. And then following, Kathleen Martin and myself decided that it would be better if we got this whole group together and formed a team. And we're going back now to probably 2012. We changed the name to the Experiencers Resource Team, and we have now over 50 members worldwide. So having said that, why am I a member of the ERT? Well, I'm an experiencer. And the one story that seems to have people really interested, because if they've had experiences of their own, they can relate. And that's when my husband and I were driving through the high desert in Colorado to a little town, through a little town called South Park. We were going camping. We had a permanent camping system set up there, like a mobile home. And we just had over 1,800 acres, some of it BLM land that was wide open to us to be able to wander on, look for arrowheads and so forth. So we were driving from one mountain peak to the next. We dropped down off the first one and went down into South Park. There's not much there except a little town called Jefferson. We were watching lights. Oh, I was, while my husband drove. And they were kind of dancing around out in the desert in an unusual manner. When we got down to the actual road, the lights began to head towards us. And pretty soon they were over the top of the car. The car was moved out into the desert. And this huge craft that we now saw the lights were attached to landed in front of us. And these entities stepped forward and escorted me out of the car and into the craft. And once there, they inserted a wire into my feet, or 1 foot, that stayed there for many years until it began to come out by itself between 2 toes. I had some hypnosis work done. Kathleen Martin did that hypnosis work so that I could find out if there were any blanks in my memory, and there were. When we ended up on the other side, almost 3 hours later of the pass, we were on one called Trout Creek Pass. It was dark. We never drove to camp in the dark, always in the daytime. And we had started in the daytime. The sun was up. It was a beautiful night, early evening, and all of a sudden it's pitch dark. The motor's still running. The lights are on. My husband is staring straight ahead, not reacting to anything that I'm asking him. And finally, he kind of shook his head and looked at me and said, what happened? And I had an idea, but I wasn't positive. So we decided to move on to camp. And as we drove the final 7 to 9 miles through a town called Buena Vista, my parents and a family friend were waiting there for us because my mom was going to have dinner ready and campfire going. And she was really frightened because back then, 1982, it was in August. There were no cell phones. So they were going to get in the car and drive the road that we had come in on to see if we were stuck somewhere or the car broke down or whatever. And they were going to walk to the camp ranch house and ask to use the phone to see if they could call the hospital and the police just in case. So we met them about to knock on the door of the ranch, and they saw the headlights, our headlights, coming down the road. They come running up to the door. We rolled the window down and they said, "What has happened? Where have you been?" And our answer had to be, we didn't know. So before I'm through, if there's anyone out there that would like some support and they've had an experience, you can reach me at dmstoner1@gmail.com. I'm here to support, to let you talk, and I'm a listener. Any questions that you have, please feel free to contact me. I am not the one that doesn't respond to my email. I do. We can arrange a phone call, anything that you would need along those lines. So that's our basic story. I've been taken since age 2.5. I have a reason to recall that. Something that happened at the time triggered my memory for that. So from 2.5 until about 6 or 7 years ago, I have been taken.
Wow. Thank you, Denise. That's close to home. Chris, do you know, does she still live in Colorado or?
I believe she does.
Wow.
She's had some amazing stories, not only her own accounts, but other people's accounts that she's shared with me from time to time. She's just a remarkable lady. She's very humble, been around for quite some time, and really knows about the abduction experience more than, her and Kathleen Martin are the two best.
Yeah.
Wow. I would love to have her on for an hour-long guest. That would be really, really cool.
Yeah. Let's do it.
So we've got, maybe like 5 or 6 minutes until break, but I wanted to squeeze in a quick book recommendation, one that I have started reading, and Katie G is going to blush, but it's actually her book.
Oh, no.
I think, Katie, we actually have a photo of the book cover that they might be able to see better. We can put that up. So Letters of Love and Light, 4 Decades of UFO Encounters, Experiences, and Sightings Shared with Ufologists, R. Leo Sprinkle, PhD. Yeah, we've only got a few minutes, but I really want people to know about this book. I guess let's start with, what inspired you to write this?
Oh, thank you, Katie. It is especially heartwarming and touching, and I'm so humbled. I was so honored to get to know Leo, and as many of you know, we just lost him recently here. But really, he was when I bought George Knapp's book, Hunt for the Skinwalker, and I learned that Dr. Leo Sprinkle was one of the investigators on the High Strangeness Ranch in Colorado. He lives only a short 2.5-hour drive. So selfishly, I went to the archives to pull all the documents from the ranch property, and I got lost in people's letters. There's 84 boxes of people's letters that wrote to Leo over 40 years. And it came to me in a dream, this book, because I thought, if I find these letters interesting, other people will too. And it's a sad thing that very few people actually physically go to archives and take the time to pull all that history out. So it was sort of just a 3.5 years I spent labor of love to honor Dr. Sprinkle and all his work. And I got to know a lot of people in the meantime, calling, hey, I'm including some of your letters. So thank you for sharing that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm wondering if you have a favorite letter that you could share. I know, it's packed full of letters.
I love the ones from the children particularly, but my favorite letter, or letters, should I say, were all the ones Leo wrote. Because not only did Leo keep letters that were written to him, he kept his response letters. He would have somebody type them out, and he kept the what were they called, the copies on the old typewriters. So you could see Leo's train of thought through the decades. And we're talking from the late 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. And to me, those are the best letters of all, are Dr. Leo Sprinkle's letters.
I'll tell you that what an amazing thing to be able to read all those letters of people who've been in and out of Dr. Sprinkle's life, and just to be able to tell them their experiences, their knowledge, that's such a warm thing, because people are sharing their inner thoughts with this man. And that's not an easy thing to do. I've had a lot of investigations where people have talked to me and said, you're the only one I've ever shared this with. Mm-hmm. And to be able to have people have that confidence in you, that's just an amazing thing.
And Leo was the champion at that. He was a voice for abductees and contactees, and he fought the battle. This is a PhD of psychology, and he kind of went through the fire for all of us. And he was so generous with his time with people. And so a lot of cool letters too. You had the gamut. I've read so many letters now that, within the first paragraph, I could kind of tell the tone of the letter. And you had everything from other PhDs to the skeptics. So you had Phil Class letters. You had early pioneers in the field like Leonard Moulton Howe and Yvonne Smith, and names you recognize. And I'm like, oh, wow. So it's just a treasure trove of information.
He even wrote to me. Like, he truly wrote back to everybody.
did.
It just blew my mind. I was thrilled to bits to get a letter from him, and it's something I should have pulled it out for this. I'll pull it out sometime. It's in my files, but I know the book has already been really popular with people. In fact, even some non-human entities, I believe, have been enjoying the Do you have that guy sitting at your house? Is that your house?
I do. I sewed 3 of those for Halloween decorations one time, and I thought how clever that would be.
Wait a minute, you make those?
Yeah, I made those for Halloween. I put the big corn stalks, and I had the smoke machine in front. I even made a crashed UFO. I know, but it was a lot of fun. So I'm going to auction them off one day. I think they're kind of creepy to have sitting around. People come in to get a glass of water at the night, and
I need one in my house, and I learn something new every day about you, that so you can just sew together aliens and UFOs. No big deal. I need to be promoting this at the front of the show when I'm telling people things that they need to be buying. Oh my God, you could sell that for so much money. It's adorable. Look at his toes.
Okay,
look at his weird little toes.
We'll go into business, Katie. We'll come up with.
Oh my God. Well, back to the book though. Seriously, everybody needs to get a copy of this. And I think we're down to like a minute before break, but what can all of us as researchers take away from Leo's work?
I think what we could take away from Leo's work, and this is what I told him, I mean, humbled, we're reinventing the wheel, but to me, sometimes I ebb and flow on, what am I doing? We might not get answers, but what I want people to understand is it's about meeting Chris DePerno and Katie Cook, and it's the people, and it's being a sounding board for others, and just connecting. And so that, to me, that's what I took away from Leo, and what a mentor he is, and just a gentle spirit, and to be that generous, and just to sit and listen to other people. I have a tendency to be real hyper, so I've really learned to try to just listen, and so he's just such a hero to me.
One of the most amazing things about a book like that is that other people hear about it and they read it, and then they realize they can talk about their experiences, because so many people have had experiences and they don't talk about it. They're very frightened about it. And then they realize and say, I'm not alone with this. Yeah, there's doctors, lawyers, politicians, all kinds of people have slowly started coming forward. And it's because they read books like this to say to themselves, you know what, this gives me the courage to come forward and talk about my experience.
Yeah, that's so true. Well, thank you, Katie, for doing that. It is time for break. And when we come back, we'll have our guest, Marc D'Antonio. So please stick around through the break.
I don't want to talk about it.
I don't want to talk about it.
Families don't have to talk about everything, but they should talk about how to plan for an emergency. Get tips and resources to make your family's emergency plan.
Hey members, the new KGRA DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA DB.
Welcome to the new KGRA digital broadcasting website, thekgradb.com. Here you'll find great new content, including the KGRA Classics, great shows from our archives. You'll be able to see the show times and information so you can see what show is currently on air. The on-air live button, so just go to this section and you'll be able to hear the show live with exceptional sound quality. We also have the Vault section. Make sure to subscribe to get access to great content and special features. We have the make content for our latest news and events, so make sure to sign up and you can be part of our forum. So make sure to check out the new KGRA digital broadcasting website, thekgradb.com. We look forward to seeing you there, and we hope that you enjoy the new website.
We're back.
Okay, we're back as we're playing the music. So, Amanda, it is time. Our guest this week is none other than Marc D'Antonio. Marc D'Antonio has a degree in astronomy and is the Mutual UFO Network's chief photo video analyst, host of SkyTour Radio on KGRA, and host and creator of the popular SkyTour LiveStream with Marc D'Antonio, and I believe Amanda is on there as well. A group of live deep sky observatories on YouTube where people can go to watch beautiful deep sky objects materialize before their eyes in mere seconds, courtesy of the SkyTour LiveStream remote observatories and their research telescopes. I believe they're located in Phoenix there. Pretty awesome. You need to check that out if you haven't. Marc is also the CEO of FX Models, a model making and visual special effects company specializing in digital physical models and organic visual effects in the film industry. He has an extensive work history in the film and television arena, appearing regularly on several networks and television series and shows. His efforts creating the Aerial Anomaly Detection System, formerly called the UFO TOG-2, a remote system to detect advanced propulsion at play in our local universe with Academy Award-winning Douglas Turnbull, promises to bring ufology into the 21st century. Oh, I can't wait to ask more about that. So welcome, Marc. Oh, come on, you guys. So, Marc, I would like to start off by asking you, what got you involved with MUFON? How did you and MUFON hook up?
Uh-oh.
You're on mute.
Is he on mute?
You're on mute.
Somebody didn't unmute me. Okay, that's okay. Hello up there, KDC. Hello, KDG, and hi there over there, Mr. Brady. So yes, yeah, that's right. Of a man named Chris DePerno. So thank you for having me on. This is really good. And Katie, I was reading your book. I mean, because I got it when I talked to Colorado MUFON. It was really spectacular, and it's very enlightening, by the way. So that said, it's all that book really kind of describes in a way what MUFON's all about. It's about a lot of different stories and a lot of different things that people have been through. And as a kid, I had some things that I went through too that I could not explain, aside from the fact that my webcam is doing this weird flashy thing. I guess we should dance to that. Okay, so I don't know what happened. I tried to reboot it, didn't help it. Anyway, I had a weird case when I was young where we went on a field trip and I lost the entire day. I don't know where it went, and no one ever saw me. But they said, "Where the heck were you all day?" And I was in the same bus going to the same place. I mean, that's like a missing time event. And that's the first thing that happened to me. And that was in I think it was like 3rd or 4th grade. It was a field trip to a pond. Well, by the time I was 9 or 10 years old, just shortly thereafter, I remember I had to have a big surgery. And afterwards, they bought me a telescope to look up at the sky because I couldn't do much while I was recovering. And I looked up in the sky, and all at once I began to feel there's got to be more up there than just us down here. There's got to be more planets out there. There has to be more life. And that started me on the path. And it was at that point that I realized I'm going to be an astronomer. And I was like age 9 when I made that determination, and I never wavered. And my parents said, "Why don't you get a job where you can actually make some money?" They were right about that. Okay. But the fact is, no kidding. But the fact is that I had to follow the passion, and following that passion led me to go into astronomy. I had very spirited arguments with people and about the possibility of extraterrestrial life. And then I found out that there was this organization called the Midwest UFO Network. That's what MUFON was called before it was called the Mutual UFO Network.
Yeah.
And
right.
yeah, and so I got involved in the Midwest UFO Network. I actually found a flyer at my local library, and Mrs. Brown, the librarian, who I don't even know where she is to this day, handed me the flyer and said, "Well, Marky," they called me, "Marky, you can take this flyer and you can join this organization if you like." "Thank you, Mrs. Brown." And I ran home on my bicycle. I filled it out. My mother sent it in for me. And the next thing you know, I'm getting the journal, which wasn't a journal. It was dittoed pages stapled together. That was the old MUFON journal, Midwest UFO Journal. And it's evolved over the years into a beautiful full color publication now. It looks beautiful. And I've been in MUFON ever since that age. I joined 2 years after it formed. And once it formed as the Midwest UFO Network and then became MUFON, I joined in 1971. So that's a long time ago.
Long time.
Wow.
Yeah, and in my wallet, Marky, right? In my wallet, the little plastic, remember the little plastic things in your wallet that you would actually have like credit cards and things, you'd slide them in. I had my UFO card from MUFON, the Field Investigator ID, a gray card signed by Walter Andrus. Yeah. Okay. Signed in blue ink. And I kept that in my wallet for decades. And then one time I dropped my wallet into the water, pulled it out really fast, and I had to take everything out to let it dry. The stuff inside the plastic envelopes had not gotten affected. So I reached in to pull out the ID card for MUFON, and all that came out was gray dust. It had long since dissolved, and it just left an imprint on the plastic sheet in the wallet. That was all that was left of my field ID badge, my field identification card. I was distraught because, oh no, this is the only record I have of being in this. So anyway, so early age, I just looked up and thought there has to be more out there. And thus MUFON became my home, and I've been there ever since.
Wow. Yeah, that's really cool. By the way, I think the aliens are probably messing with your signal there.
I know.
think they don't want you talking.
Yeah, it doesn't. I don't know what's happening, but I apologize for that.
You know what? We're just going to pretend you're beaming in from Mars, and it's just a little bit of a weird signal there. Okay, so you mentioned this possible missing time event when you were younger. So obviously, we all want to know: have you done any hypnosis or anything to try and figure out exactly what happened?
Never.
Okay, is that on purpose? Do you not want to know?
I probably don't really want to know. But there's been a history of such things with my family. My youngest son, who's here, he's 2 floors above me. He had an event that when he was a kid that he will not talk about anymore. In fact, he gets mad when you bring it up, so I can't, But he basically had something terrifying happen to him, and it caused him to sleep in my bed for like 4 months, and he would not go into his own bed. And the weird thing is, his brother was in the same room the whole time, and he didn't even feel safe with his older brother in the room. And then his older brother had an event when he was driving back from, he had his girlfriend up in northern Connecticut, and they're driving back. They had a strange event that they couldn't explain. The girl was hysterical about it, and he called me and said, "I don't know what just happened." His account actually ended up in a book written by somebody else because he just had to talk to somebody about it. And he talked to this one guy who wrote it down and asked his permission to publish it. So I don't know why things like this are familial, but they seem to be. And the thing is, nobody asks for this. I'm a researcher. I want to research this stuff. But I think that we're drawn to this because, in part, we feel integrated with it in some way through an experience we might have had or through something else. And I do feel that that's probably important. That probably is a very important thing. And I can't tell you why, but it's probably familial.
Mm-hmm.
Mark, I have a question for you. And I was going to ask you about USOs because you got a fantastic story about your time on a nuclear powered submarine, but you just brought up something. Do you think that you've been implanted, and that because you've been implanted that maybe generations your family have always had these experiences?
I don't know. I do know that that implant event you talk about was not this missing time or the things that my kids experienced, but I did have 3 terrifying nights where I ended up waking up at 3:15 a.m. every night in a row to the sound of knocking, and it was like this. At that rhythm, bang, 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 bang. And the first night I woke up and said, "What's that?" And I just went back to sleep. The second night I woke up, and this time it was louder. It was, okay, you get it. Okay, really loud. And I sat up and I looked over. It was an August night and the window was open. There was one distant street light you could see, and it was sort of framing the window with dim light. And under the window, I at the time had 2 greyhound dogs that I rescued from the track. Yes, I that was very nice. I love rescues. And they were both looking up at the sound at the peak of the roof in this second floor of a dormer cape, single family home. And I got up and I went over and I leaned over the dogs, put my hand on the windowsill and leaned and stuck my face against the screen and trying to look up to see what the noise was, because it was right over my head. And as soon as I did, I got this bright flash of white light in my face, and I just froze with my head against the screen. And I pulled my head back and I'm looking and I can't see a thing. And I just see like milky, cloudy white. And then I see the light in the distance. I see the light starting to bleed back in slowly. And I had no idea what was going on until I saw that light bleeding back. And I said, I've just been flash blinded. As an astronomer, we don't want bright lights. If you get hit with a flashlight in the face, it's a flash blindness for a moment. And your sky darkness, your eye adaptation is ruined until your eyes readapt. And that's what happened. And I couldn't understand what it was. So I just sat there, and as I watched, the rest of the terrain came back in, and I looked down because I was leaning over the dogs, remember, and there were no dogs there. They were gone. Now, I was still standing where I was, but apparently the flash, I don't know for sure, but apparently they may have seen the flash, but they bolted, and I never saw it, never heard it. And I found Tycho, the male dog, in the closet in a pile of laundry that had to be folded, so I had to wash it all again. Okay. And then Kepler, the female, was outside the room sitting on her haunches with her ears back. And they were both really frightened by that event, and neither of them slept in their beds after that event. Never again under that window. They never slept there again. And that was like, wow. I don't know what it was, but I did what anybody does when they have such a traumatic event happen. I went back to bed and forgot about it. And then the next night, I woke up again. And this time I heard no sound. In fact, my ears were shut off. I mean, click, shut off. Nothing. It's killed in the brain. It's as if the ears are just tubes going into the brain, but nothing's coming in. And I'm sitting there going, what the heck is that? I went to sit up. I couldn't move. I went to move my head. I couldn't move my head. I went to use my eyes and look to the right because I saw something over there. I couldn't move my eyes. I was frozen in place. I'm like, oh no, what was that last night? It must have been a stroke or something. Oh no, I'm going to die here. No one's going to find me. That's kind of what I was thinking. And then I saw a shape cross in front of the window with my peripheral vision. I couldn't look at it, but it was there. It crossed in front of the window. And I didn't know what it was. But then it came toward me as if the bed wasn't there. I still think I was on the bed. And I think that frame that it passed in front of was the window, lit dimly by that distant street light, the one and only. And it came close to me, and it actually had like I won't say like well, it looked like this. It looked like a wand like this, maybe longer and thinner. And it was, again, sorry about the flashing. I know that it's messing with stuff, but it kept moving back and forth in front of my face like this, and it was illuminated soft white, and I couldn't look at it. I could only look straight ahead. My eyes were fixed, and I just saw it only in my peripheral vision. And then, bang, it was morning, and I couldn't breathe. And I pushed off the pillow to find out that the reason I couldn't breathe is because I was actually trying to breathe my own blood in a concave cavity created because I was face down on the pillow. Who sleeps face down? And and I pushed off. I'm gagging and I cough, and I felt like somebody had punched me in the face as hard as they could, and I was just unnerved by that. So I went into the bathroom. I washed my face, right? I came back out, and I did again what anyone does who has such a terrifying event happen. I got dressed and went to work and forgot all about it. Okay, that's exactly what happened. And from that point forward, this is my left sinus, I could not breathe out of it. It was totally blocked from that point forward. So it took 4 years. 4 years. And I went to an ear, nose, and throat surgeon, and he looked up there and said, "Holy cow, you've got something huge up there." I go, "No kidding. I can't breathe." "When did it happen?" "About 4 years ago." And he says, "Really?" And he goes, "Yeah." I go, "Yeah." And I said, "What are you going to do with these?" He says, "Well, we can take it out. I think I can get it out." So we set up a time, and he did. He went in there, he took it out. And I was awake for that. And I hate to say it this way, but what came out of this tiny little nostril was something this big, the size of 2 of my thumbs stacked together. Okay. And it pulled it out. And I felt like Arnold Schwarzenegger in Total Recall. "Yeah, you got to pull it out, pulling this thing out of the nose, right?" It was really painful, but it finally came out. And I said to him, "Tell me something. Can those things, like the one you're holding that you pull out of my nose, can those things seed around a foreign object?" And I think you know where I'm going with that. And you guys, not him. I didn't say that to him. And he said, "Oh, you mean like a splinter that a machinist might get?" I go, "Yeah." He says, "Yeah, maybe. Yeah, that's logical. Why? Why do you ask?" And I told him the story I just told you. I shouldn't have, but I did. And he laughed. He goes, "I'm sure it's not aliens." I go, "No, of course not." Well, he said, "Call me in a week and I'll give you the results. I got to send this down to pathology. We should have the results in a few days. So give me 5 days. Call me at the end of the week." I think it was like a Monday. So I called him on Friday, and I get the secretary. "Hello, Dr. Lehman's office." He's doctor in Hartford Hospital and in Connecticut. It's all on record. And I say, "Hi, it's Marc D'Antonio." And "Oh, hold on. Doctor has to talk to you." I'm like, "Uh-oh. What they find? I got head cancer. My head's going to fall off. What's going on?" And the doctor comes on the phone. He says, "Hi, Mr. D'Antonio. I just want to let you know it's probably benign, nothing to worry about." And "Oh, well, that's good to know, but probably, do you not have the results yet? Did I call too early?" And he was silent. It was crickets, basically. And I went, what's the matter?" He goes, "Well," he goes, and I swear to you, he said this exact phrase, "This is the first time this has ever happened in my practice in the hospital, but we sent it to pathology and they said they can't find it." "What?" He says, but he goes, "It's benign. Don't worry about it. You can sleep well. It's fine." "Okay, well, thank you, Dr. Lehman." And I hung up, and that was it. I go back to him 4 years later, and I have something else to do. And so I fill out a form saying what I've got, why I'm there and all that. And for my occupation, I put in that I do special projects for the Navy, which is true. And he came into the office, or into the room, the trauma room, whatever, the treatment room. And he was reading my intake sheet, which is what those are. Right? You fill out what brings you here today. Well, I always say, funny things on there because the medical assistants have to read hundreds of these. And so I make funny comments. And he comes in, he goes, "Hey, my medical assistants love you." And I go, "Well, they have tough job." And he goes, "Special projects, huh?" I go, "Yeah, I've been doing." I elaborated a little. And he goes, "I just gave up my top secret clearance this past year." I went, "What? What are you operating on? Top secret nasal polyps?" What are you talking about? And he goes, No. He goes, "I wasn't always a surgeon." He says, and he proceeded to tell me about an event he participated in the Pacific Ocean that involved a nuclear weapon being fired into space to conduct activities on an enemy satellite. And it was successful. And I put the pieces together and realized he was on Project Starfish. So if you look that up, you'll see that Project Starfish was a project that on the surface was meant to fire a nuclear weapon up into the ionosphere and set it off and see what it does to the upper ionosphere. Okay? Well, that's actually not the full story. He said, well, we had to actually do this in total secrecy. And he goes, and we actually took down an enemy satellite. And I went, are you kidding me? I mean, how could that violates every treaty we ever had? He goes, oh, I know. He goes, and that's why we cleared 1,600 miles of the Pacific in every direction around us. Oh, that makes it okay. So anyway, I was like, wow, that's really interesting. And that's when I knew what happened to the sample he took out, because I know all about when you have clearances, there's certain things you have to do. And I know that he probably called the people that he deals with and said, I had a patient, I can almost see how the call went. I had a patient who said he had a weird experience and something got put up into his cavity, the sinus cavity. It's currently, when we took it out, it's down in the pathology department here in Hartford, Connecticut. And I'm sure they said, okay, what's your number? We have a special number when you have those clearances. That's called a cage code. I'm sure he had to give it and give his information. And then they said, okay, thank you. Okay. And then he hangs up. Plausible deniability. He honestly doesn't know where it went. See what I mean? He reports it, but he, under oath, under a polygraph exam, would answer correctly and honestly when he says, I don't know where it is.
Gosh, that's so unfortunate, because wasn't it like Roger Lear that did all the implant work, and some of them were highly magnetized and all that? I mean, it would have been interesting to be able to
never
run
had
tests
that.
or put a magnet on your nose or something.
I never had that chance.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. And your experience, it's certainly, I mean, your recall of it doesn't sound like sleep paralysis. A lot of people want to talk about, oh, you're just paralyzed, laying in bed, you have sleep paralysis. What do you make of that when people?
I actually use that. I use the hypnopompic states in order to meditate, and I understand them. And I can put myself into such states while I'm walking down the street, because I've learned how to, I don't know why I can, but I've learned how to manage the energy in my body and cycle it up and down. And it's like an electric shock, and I can make it happen. And at the time, this was unlike anything I've ever done. And maybe I was more prone to it, and maybe I was easier to put into that state, but I have never put myself into a state where I couldn't then be in control of it. This was different. And the part that bothered me the most wasn't that my ears were completely shut off. It was that I couldn't move my eyes. I couldn't look to the right or the left or up or down. They were frozen and fixed. I couldn't move the muscles to move my eyes. And that, I thought, was probably the most frightening thing. It's almost like, well, okay, I can be paralyzed. I don't care about my eyes. It's like, what? It seems misplaced. But those states, I recognize the states, and I know that that's not where I was,
Mm-hmm.
James Fox did a movie. I know what I saw. Well, there should be a movie. I know what I felt. Okay. Because I do.
Yeah. I'd like to follow up on that. So, first of all, the difference between a really vivid dream and being wide awake and something happening that, other people might say, well, that almost sounds dreamlike, but if you're awake or not, period. Going back to the white light event. So I had twice in 1 week, and I won't tell the whole long story because I can do that another time, but twice in 1 week, I had in the middle of the night, being wide awake, completely sober, definitely not asleep in any way, no sleep paralysis, but just blinding white light lighting up the room. I mean, I couldn't have seen my hand in front of my face. It was like every little atom was literally full of light, and it just came up.
Interesting.
And then went away. Happened twice in the same week in two completely different states.
Wow.
And I was not alone. So that's always helped me a lot. It's everything when you have a witness, right? Because you can, I think sometimes you can almost talk yourself out of your experiences, but having a witness, you can't. But what I wanted to ask you, we had, as you all know, absolutely horrible storms down here. And, with tornadoes and everything a few nights ago. And when the lightning was crazy for a couple hours, and I suffer a little bit of PTSD. So I don't know exactly what happened in these. I just call them white light events. I don't know. To me, it seemed like they only lasted a couple seconds. And then I just went back to sleep, didn't even get up and really investigate much, which is weird. But I find when I have really bad lightning around the house, that kind of can illuminate the room, I'm unreasonably afraid. And I just didn't know if you've had any PTSD along with your event.
I don't think I have. I know what you're talking about, and I know that people do suffer PTSD when there's a visual memory or an auditory memory or a smell memory that comes back, an olfactory memory that comes back at some point, and you remember something traumatic. I do remember that. I mean, I used to, like, whenever I would smell alcohol as a child, I remember that surgery that was very dangerous that I had to have when they put me under by strapping me down on a table and strapping a mask over my face and holding my head still and running this gas in my face until I fell asleep. And I was screaming, stop, I'm not ready. Okay. And that was an actual surgery I had at Yale New Haven Hospital. And so every time I would smell alcohol, which is a derivative of the ether that they used at the time, I would have little panic attacks. I'm not like that anymore, of course, but I remember what you're talking about, and I know that there's trauma associated with things like that, and I think so many people have traumatic events that are not addressed, and they don't ever find out what they're from, and it's possible that that's because it's an event such as what you may have experienced, okay, or what I did experience, that they haven't been able to put a handle on yet,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really don't know what happened that night. Maybe that's part of the problem, is maybe somewhere in my subconscious I do know. I don't know.
Yeah.
Mark, I want to change gears a little bit. I want to ask you
Sure.
about your experience on a nuclear powered submarine.
Okay, which gear is this?
What's that?
Is this second or third gear?
Well, let's do the fifth gear. Let's put it.
I always
high
toss
octane
it
right there.
I do this to Chris all the time, guys. I'm sorry.
I could give a rat's ass, but listen. Oh, I know I said that on there, but anyway.
Now we're 18 plus.
YouTube will throw me off. Anyways, I want to talk to you about, very few people have been on a nuclear powered submarine. You were fortunate enough to go on one, and you actually had an experience with a USO while you were on it. Could you tell us about that?
Yeah, that was a strange event too, because when I was again with project work you do for the Navy, sometimes you get an option to go see the boat, hang out on the boat, look at the boat that you worked on or did some things for. And I'm just a model maker. I build models. I've got one right here on the table behind me that I'm building right now, right next to Katie's book. Okay, this is one I'm building for the Navy right now. Okay, and there we go. Okay, but I'm sorry about that. I'm frozen.
I think it's the U.S. Navy that's doing it to you, pal.
I guess so. Let me see if I can fix it. Okay, I may not be able to, but we'll try here. Oh boy, that's just even better. All right, just a second.
Yeah, somebody doesn't want you talking.
I know, huh?
Absolutely. I must have hit a nerve on that one.
I don't know what you did, but I don't know if it was a nerve. But all right, let's see what we're doing here. Anyway, we'll make it work. Okay, we'll make it work. So that said, are we back? Oh, I think we're kind of back. Right. Yeah. Well, when I was asked to go, I was asked if I wanted to go for a ride on a nuclear sub, and who'd say no to that? Well, I didn't realize how motion sick I get. And when I got on the boat, we're underway, and of course, it's like a sewer pipe with end caps. Okay. And there's no windows, of course. So the boat on the surface is doing this. It's rocking and rolling. You have no points of reference. And this goes on for several hours as you steam out into the Atlantic Ocean. Okay. And it's doing this the whole way. And you're just starting to get sick. I was. Everybody else is like, woohoo, this is fun. They're bouncing around. I'm just like, oh, I don't want to, have an accident on the commander's shoes. Okay. Well, anyway, I decided I need to get my stomach in order. So I went over and I sat in the sonar area. They have the control room here, and off to the side is a little alley that has 4 sonar stations on this particular boat. And I went to the second sonar station because the first one was occupied by a sonarman who was looking at the sonar. And they're just listening. They're not sending out pings. They're just listening. And there's a screen that shows everything going on. And I sat there and I'm trying to just close my eyes and kind of get my stomach back. And I sort of start dozing a little bit. And all of a sudden, it's like it's like loud in my head. I hear con sonar, fast mover. I'm like, huh, what? I'm thinking fast mover. Oh no, it's a torpedo. Why did I say I wanted to go on this trip? We're going to die out here. We're going to get hit by a torpedo. Who's shooting at us? That's what I was thinking. And I literally, my heart probably jumped to like 200 beats per minute in a split second. And the executive officer comes around and says, okay, and it says something to the kid. He says something like, what do you got? What's up? Tell me what you got or whatever. And the kid is here facing the executive officer, the XO. XO's facing me, so I can hear what he says. I can't hear what the kid says because he's talking in a normal voice. And subs are loud. They have a lot of noise. Okay, and it's the Navy's, basically the fine print says that sound doesn't get out of the boats. And so the submarines are extremely quiet outside. But inside, it's as loud as you can imagine. High pressure air, whooshing by, people walking, talking, noises. So it was hard to hear everything being said. But the kid told the XO, when asked, about the bearing and distance of this object, whatever it was. And then the XO said, well, what's the speed on that? He asked, like, the velocity, speed. And the kid did something, and he looks back, and he was incredulous. And he held his arms out like this, and he said, several hundred knots, sir. And he was facing away from me, but I cleanly and plainly heard him say several hundred knots. It was almost like he was yelling it, And he just stood there he sat there with his hands like this. He didn't know what to do. And the XO said, okay, log it and dog it. And he turned back to the console, said, sir, yes, sir. And that was it. And I'm like, wait a minute. I got up and I went over to the XO because, hey, I'm a big shot, okay? I was invited to be in that sub. So I'm a big shot, right? You would think. So I asked the XO, Mr. Smarty Pants here, me. I said, XO, I'm familiar with these fast movers. Is there anything I can help you with? And he looked at me and he says, D'Antonio, right? I go, yes, sir. He says, you having a good trip so far? Yes, sir, I am. Let's keep it that way. And he turned and walked away. And, of course, I was like, okay, I'll just go sit over here. And I sat back down, totally excited. And I wasn't seasick for the rest of that trip, man. I was not. Because it was so exciting. In fact, I couldn't wait to get out and start researching it. All right. And it was a few years later when the Russians started to announce that they've been seeing these things. And other navies started to say that they've been seeing these things. I said at a conference somewhere, yeah, our Navy has seen these things too. And someone said, oh, really? What do you mean? How do you know? And I said, well, I was on a boat that actually saw one. Really? Yeah. And I kind of explained a little bit about what happened. I wasn't told not to talk about it. So there you go. And that led to other people coming out and saying it. In fact, Lou Elizondo spoke at UFO Congress, and he mentioned it by the name Fast Movers, in fact. And then I talked to other submariners when I was talking at Devil's Tower in Wyoming. I was there 2 consecutive years at the UFO conference that was there. And this one guy at lunch said, yeah, we didn't call them fast movers on our boat. They were called jellyfish on our boat. They were categorized because a sonar guy is not supposed to have a reading they can't explain. They have to have a hole to put every peg in. So sometimes they have to just lump it in. Okay, it's a fast-moving thing. Well, if it's a jellyfish moving several hundred knots or several hundred miles an hour, so be it. If we don't know what it is, we're going to just call it a jellyfish in this boat. And it gets categorized, cataloged, and sent down to Washington. Well, that would have ended there, except that a few years later, I had to do a job for the Joint Chiefs. And I had to make this project that was going to be used as a presidential briefing model. I made it, and I drove it down. That's a whole funny story in itself. When I delivered it, and I delivered this model, and the people that I delivered the model to, one of them was the Joint Chief, one of the Joint Chiefs. And I said to him, what can you tell me about the Fast Mover program? I didn't want to say it. The words were like trapped in here, and I didn't want to say it. And I was like, don't say it, don't say it, don't say it. And blah, blah, I had already spit it out. I'm like, oh no, I'm in such trouble. And he looked at me, and I thought he was going to say, get out. Okay. Instead, probably because we had a working relationship, he looked at me and said, I can't talk about that program. I'm sorry. It knocked me for a loop. I think I drove back from Maryland that day like this. Bridge abutment. Okay. Truck. I think. Car. You know, I was like zoned out. And I couldn't believe it because there. This was, by the way, this was decades ago, before the Nimitz incident ever occurred. So it's an ongoing thing that's been happening in our oceans for years.
Right. That ties really nicely into our guest last week, Debbie Ziegelmeyer, talking about these fast movers. And I think she mentioned you actually. And I mean, they're clocking these things at upwards of 1,000 knots or something like that. So it's pretty incredible. Now,
and this boat was several hundred knots. I don't know if there's anything faster, but it's crazy stuff.
So that's underwater sightings. Do you happen to have like a favorite UFO sighting or event?
Yeah, there's one, and it's old, and that's the funny thing about it. There's one that I could never see adequately explained, and it was the Nick Mariano footage in Montana, and I think it was like 1950. I mean, it was taken on like a 16 millimeter projector or some such thing, and it's only a few seconds long. So you say, oh, what good is that? Well, actually, it shows the footage of these objects coming through the atmosphere or moving through the sky. And for a whole bunch of reasons, they don't look natural. And I can talk to that. I don't know if you've got the video.
Yeah,
but
I actually just found it. Amanda, can you play that video there real quick?
Okay, 12 seconds. Okay. But the fact is, those two white dots moving through went behind a tower. I think he was at a stadium or something. And I think he had his daughter there. I'm not sure. But they look very interesting to me. And at first, when I first saw this, I thought, well, I'm an astronomer. Maybe those are daytime meteors. Okay, there's certainly been daytime meteors. And they move through the sky rapidly. But they move faster than these do. So that's odd. So, and they would also leave smoke behind, a little trail behind them. So that's a little odd to me. And then I considered the source. The source was a guy who wasn't there to see that. He was there to do other things. And he just happened to see these, and he filmed a little sequence. And that seemed odd that he wasn't there for that, but he managed to capture it anyway. And he was actually smart enough, whether he thought about it or not, to let them go behind that radio tower, that tower that was there, a light tower, whatever that was. And that was a very important thing, too, because then if it was a faked image or a fake video, I'd be able to figure it out because we'd be able to figure out how it was made. That's actually kind of one of my specialties, right? I mean, I own a visual effects company. We make fake shit like that. Oops, sorry. Yeah, okay. 21 plus. I'm sorry. We make fake stuff like that. Okay. So sometimes to show people how they work. So I think that it's possible that what he filmed was a true anomaly, and I think it's a great video. And yet it's underutilized, underlooked. I mean, they said there was, maybe they were the Super Savers, F-86 Super Savers. Okay, yeah, well, that craft has a very shiny metal skin. It's a jet, and it could look like that. However, he was looking in a direction. He was like 80 or 90 miles in the other direction from where the jets were flying. So I guess they just reached. Here's what we do: that we grasp for straws and say, "Oh, well, that must be it." Well, not necessarily. Okay, and in this case, I don't think that's necessarily true either. I think the Nick Mariano footage is actually valid footage.
Interesting. Thank you for sharing that. Well, let's keep looking up with you because this is your life. Your world is looking out there into the universe. And I have, oh God, I wish I had like 2 hours to ask you questions.
I can't read now. I can't read anymore.
No, not right now. You have to do that in a minute. I know it's hard to put down. It really, really is.
It is. It's a great book.
Let me ask you a question about, well, let's start with the moon. That's the closest thing.
Sure.
What do you think about reports of an alien base on the moon?
For many years, I've seen this. I did a show called Aliens on the Moon, and on Netflix, it was like the little title image was always me staring at the screen, and I was in a red shirt, which James Oberg, the former NASA public relations guy, said, "Haha, you're the red shirt guy." Okay, I said, "No, James, stop." Because in Star Trek, the red shirt guy always got killed off. So, but when I did that show, they tried to sell me on the idea that these things on the moon were artificial, but there was nothing convincing except perhaps one photo, which showed a rather regimented structure that didn't look like it could be artificial. It could have been a film artifact, though, So I don't know. It looked like it wasn't natural, I should say. So, but like the Chinese right now are taking one of their rovers and heading toward this weird block in the distance. Now, that block is also associated with a crater, and that crater could have thrown it out. And many times you get blocks like that thrown out of craters because of the way rock breaks. It breaks on these crystal lattice lines, and the rocks can break in square chunks. All right, we see that here on Earth too. Well, anyway, as far as a base on the moon, you can check out the moon, almost every square meter of it, using the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter website. They have something called the LRO for Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, LRO Quick Map, all one word, Quick Map. And you come up with the moon and you can zoom in and zoom in and zoom in all the way until you can see things that are between 15 and 25 feet across. And that's front side of the moon, back side of the moon, everywhere on the moon. There's some data that's missing, but they're filling it in slowly. But the thing is, if alien races were here, I don't think they're going to go to the moon. Because even for them, the moon is a little too far to see what's going on here. I think, as I might have alluded before, they go where we are not, which is the deep ocean. And so I think that they would probably hang out here. Now, Hollywood has made the movie like The Abyss and makes you think there's aliens or creatures that have always been here living deep under the ocean. And, you can't take away that possibility because we're not there to see for sure. But I think that if aliens are here, they're probably going to be in our deep ocean. I mean, outside the atmosphere, they have to have a pressure equation that keeps the air, or if they breathe air, in their ships. And underwater, they have to have a pressure equation that pushes out to prevent the water from crushing them. Okay, so in space, they have to hold that shell together, and under the water, they got to push that shell out to make sure that it doesn't get crushed. Not such a hard task for an advanced civilization, I think. So I think they could do it. Or they're actually kind of split dimensions. They're not in our X, Y, and Z, all moving through time, our four-dimensional space. So it's possible that they use a different methodology for hiding from us, and that's a natural mode of existence for them. So I don't think the moon is the place. I think the deep ocean would be the place, if anything.
Okay, yeah, that's really good insight. Thank you.
Yeah.
No.
Mark, I got to
Yes,
ask
that's
you
me.
a question. Yes, it is you. Have you ever captured any type of anomaly that you said to yourself, go, what the hell is that? What did I just discover?
Yeah, as most people know, we created an observatory. We have two of them. Okay, one of them has this scope behind me you see back there. That's our East Coast observatory system, and that's going to go back in a building that we're building out here. We outgrew the old one. But in the West, we have out in the Arizona desert, we have another building. And it's called SkyTour LiveStream, like you see right there. And SkyTour LiveStream is a wonderful live deep sky observatory system. And we publicly open the observatory on public nights, and we stream it to the world. I have people from all over the world in our streams, from Japan, Brazil, Mexico, Bulgaria, England, everywhere. They come in from all over the world to watch the streams. And we actually show them these spectacular visions in seconds that would normally take hours to achieve. And, we have special equipment that we use to do that. I don't know of anyone else that really does that. But the fact is, as part of that observatory, I always install an all-sky camera that actually has a 180-degree view and looks out the whole sky at once. And I think that the all-sky camera is worth its weight in gold because we have seen some really incredible things. We take time exposures with it, like 20-second exposures. And in one of those exposures, actually two of those exposures, only one of which I think you have, in two of those exposures, you actually see this really strange circular track developing way up in the sky. And there it is. Now, if you look up close at that circular track, you'll notice one thing. We have this gigantic spider that's attacking the city of Phoenix, 68 miles away. Yes, I know. And, the city of Phoenix, they evacuated after that. No, but that circular thing you see down below, okay, right there, that little circular thing, that guy right there, that was on that frame and was also on the previous frame, but it was the other side of it. It was completed as a circle. And I didn't know what it was. If you look to the lower left in this frame, you'll see it says EXP. All right, that's the exposure time, 24 seconds. And that was on May 12th, 2021, when this was captured at 10:32 in the evening. And that object is something that I can't explain. At first, I thought, well, maybe it's a military jet, and we're seeing when you talked about the afterburners before, Chris, so maybe that was the afterburners or the jet nozzles being seen by the camera. That's explainable. If it only occurred on one frame, I would say, yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let that one go because we don't have enough evidence. However, the previous frame shows the rest of the circle going all the way around. Well, last I checked, jets don't have nozzles, exhaust nozzles that you would see on the front and the back. So why would we have a complete circle? It doesn't make any sense, from a human-made point of view. So I don't know what that was. It's not a reflection. Okay. This much I know because where it is in the sky, and I'd have to go into a long thing to talk about it, but the way light reflects and the distance that, Phoenix is, you just wouldn't see a reflection that bright on something that high in the sky. Okay. So it's a really odd thing that occurred, and that's one that I cannot explain.
Wow. Maybe you caught the wormhole opening and closing. Maybe that's how they're getting in and out.
You know what? Almost anything is on the table, Katie.
Yeah. Well, okay. I'm going to throw a wacky question at you. I've had this thought.
Oh, I'm so scared.
You should be very afraid of this one. Be afraid. Be very afraid. Okay. So we don't know. We really don't know if aliens need oxygen like we do. But, you were just talking about whether or not they'd want to be on the moon or if they were underwater, the things they might have to do to survive. We hear so much about them taking samples, not just flesh samples, but plant samples. And they're coming in and out of the ocean. Maybe they're taking plankton. I wonder if they're literally taking samples so they can, maybe they need more oxygen wherever they are. Like maybe they could literally be growing something. Maybe their own atmosphere has become really deteriorated, and that's part of why they're coming here. Just a thought.
That's actually a good thought. And one of the things that I talk about with people is, if you look at the elemental abundances, what's that? Well, we like our periodic table. Remember that ugly thing you saw in school? Hydrogen, helium, all the elements. Well, carbon is in that list, right? And then you have nitrogen, then you have oxygen. And oxygen is produced on this planet by phytoplankton, right? And by plants. All right. We have that process called respiration and transpiration. In the daytime, oxygen is released. At night, okay, it's not. And so what happens is photosynthesis is a really fascinating process. It's the reason we're here. And if you look at the Earth from a long distance away, say several light years away, you notice something strange. You notice that the oxygen abundance in our atmosphere, the element oxygen, is not changing, not much. It's staying abundant. That's sort of like a gigantic flare that you're sending out to the universe, that there's life here. Because if you have oxygen in an atmosphere, it means that something is replenishing it. And when you have it in the quantities that we have, then it means that thing is almost certainly life, right? And geology will produce oxygen, and there's other reasons why oxygen can be produced on a planet. But the fact of the matter is, the amount we have in our atmosphere indicates that there's got to be a process replenishing it pretty fast, because oxygen loves to leave atmospheres and loves to dive into the soils and bond with all kinds of things. Look at Mars. What color is Mars? It's red. Why is it red? It's red because it rusted. The oxygen that was broken up from the water molecules that used to be prevalent in the Martian atmosphere quite abundantly, actually, broke apart. The hydrogen went to space. The oxygen went down into the surface of the planet, bonded with the iron compounds to make Fe2O3, which is rust, and other forms of rust, like hematites, okay? These compounds turned Mars red over time. So here on our planet, we don't have that issue. We have an abundance of oxygen. And, Carl Sagan called it a pale blue dot, right? That was Carl Sagan, right? My favorite astronomer. And the fact of the matter is, we're not so pale. Stephen Hawking said we should keep our heads down and stay out of, stay off the alien radar, because you never know who's up there. The fact is, we started building oxygen up in our atmosphere 2.4 billion years ago. And that means that ever since then, we've been broadcasting a signal to the universe out to over 2 billion light years that there's life here. Hey, there might be life here, actually. So there's life here. There might be life here. Don't look at us. Don't look at us, but there's life here. So if you want to go investigate a planet, you're going to investigate a planet as a carbon-based creature like us. We're made of carbon, right? If you go to a planet, you're going to go to a planet that reminds you of you, and that might be someplace you could exist. And if that's the case, you might choose to go to a planet that has oxygen in the atmosphere, because carbon beings like us require oxygen to make energy. So,
yeah.
Amazing. Mark,
Right.
real quick, I want to ask you, what's your next project? You've been involved with television shows and all kinds of different projects. What's your next one?
Well, we did that one that's on Discovery Plus called Alien Invasion Hudson Valley, and I was a cast member with Ben Hansen and Melissa Tittle, and we investigated the Hudson Valley sightings. And then I did season 2 of The Proof Is Out There on A&E, and season 3 has been approved. So I guess maybe if they like what I did, they'll have me back and do that. But I'm actually working on, I'll spill it. I'm working on another observatory, and it's got to be in another dark sky site. And we don't know the site yet, but we're actually talking about doing that. Our observatory in Arizona is well underway. There's room for 2 more telescopes in there. And so we may rent piers to a university or anyone that wants to pay a subscription fee to own a pier in that building. And we're going to do that again somewhere else. So we have a lot going on, a lot to do. And as far as other projects, well, of course, I've got all my Navy work there, and I've got Katie's book to read. I know I'm killing it, Katie, aren't I? I'm just killing it.
Don't forget your show on Sunday nights at 6 p.m. on KGRA. And also, I want to give a shout out to your book, The Populated Universe. Don't forget your copy of Mark's book.
Yeah, The Populated Universe is a book that, there it is. This book was cool because I wrote this as a labor of love, all right? I felt that the title actually is interesting. The title comes from an argument I had with my observatory director when I was getting my degree in astronomy. I went into his office and I started talking to him about the universe, saying, look at us. We're carbon-based beings. We're bilaterally symmetric. We're the same on the left and the right. Okay, bilateral symmetry is part of almost every life form on this planet. Some form of symmetry is in every life form on this planet. Okay, and that is something that is based on maybe the way DNA replicates, whatever it is. Either way, I think that this has been repeated 1,000,000 trillion times throughout the universe. And of course, my director's looking at me like this. Not saying a word, just looking at me like, uh-huh. And actually, to be fair, he was doing this. He had glasses, looking at me over his glasses, wondering, who is this guy in front of me, right? This was in 1982, by the way, so that gives you an idea. And I said to him, I think it's a populated universe. Art, it really is. There's got to be life out there. And he goes, uh-huh.
Yep. That is a perfect way to end our show because we are out of time. But what a perfect ending to that. Yes, it's a populated universe. Mark, you've been a fantastic guest. Thank you so much. Thank you to my co-hosts, Katie and Chris. This has been another great show. I hope you guys can join us next week, next Thursday night. And I want to give a shout out to, of course, Bill Skywatcher, the producer, and our wonderful co-producer, Amanda. Thank you for all you do. Couldn't do it without you guys. And tune in next Thursday night. We'll have Jack Turnbull, director of England. So it'll be great to see, overseas what's going on. So thank you guys. Thank you everybody for being here. And I hope you tune in next Thursday night. Have a good rest of your night, everybody.
See you later.